same. Like a game isn't played that way. You've got to stay on track.
Welcome to the socialengineer.org podcast. We're on podcast number 10. We have a smaller panel this month. We have with us Jim or Elwood. How you doing, Jim?
I'm doing really well.
You're very quiet, Jim. You sound really far away.
Really far away? How about this? Is this better?
Much better.
Okay, my mic was slipping all over my face.
And then we have Maddie or Mutz. How you doing, Mutz?
Doing great, doing great. You sound very formal today, Chris.
Oh, I am very formal because we don't have Dave with us. You know, in the past, Dave has done some strange things. He's called us from the hospital while getting an EKG. He's called us while sitting in traffic on I-70. He's called us from all sorts of weird locations, bars, other places. But today he's not here because last night he told me that his wife might be giving birth this afternoon. And he'll try to get on and give us a call. And I told him, you know, if your wife's in labor, maybe that's not the best time to worry about the
I don't know,
podcast.
the excuses this guy comes up with. I mean,
I know, really.
like a wife in labor, come on.
I know.
Give me a break.
Elwood said she can hold it for 15 minutes. So we might have Dave with us today. We might not, but either way, Dave, when you hear this, we're giving you a shout out to you and your wife. Hope everything goes well with the birthing, and we look
Hope
forward.
everything comes out okay, is what you're saying.
That's exactly what I'm trying to say. Thank you for putting it so eloquently, Elwood.
Next topic.
Next topic. Okay, let's think. We have a lot going on this month. Last month in the podcast, we talked about getting some guest submissions for our newsletters and website, and believe it or not, a lot of people started emailing in and asking what they can do and how they can help. They came on the IRC channel, and we had so many submissions. Elwood and I reviewed a few that were really, really outstanding. So by the time this comes out, the podcast, the newsletter will have been released, but it's full of both of the stories are guest submissions. So good work on those stories and writings, and we look forward to seeing more. So we're just encouraging everyone that's hearing this, keep writing in, keep asking what you can do to help. We really do appreciate all the submissions, and it's when we get some good stuff, we'll use it both on the blogs and on the newsletter.
Hear, hear.
Hear, hear. Also, drum roll, please. Who has a drum? Excellent. We have.
That was fast.
That was very fast. That was Elwood, by the way, on the drums. We have our two things to mention. We have our OffSec CTF, the How Strong Is Your Foo 2.
Correct. Well pronounced.
Thank you. Hacking for Charity. Mutz, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the first challenge was really fun. People really enjoyed it. And we were trying to think of ways to reduce the amount of people who sign up, because one of the main issues that we had was the sheer volume. So then the natural idea came up to have a paid registered sign up where all the proceeds would go to HFC. And lo and behold, this is exactly what happened. So we started planning on even more evil machines and more interesting challenges, which won't be aimed at such a large crowd. So you won't see things like noob filters and things like that. But the main effort will be put in the quality of the machines instead. So expect much more interesting challenges, much harder challenges. They'll range from reverse engineering to fuzzing to hardcore web applications. It's going to be a lot of fun.
So from what I heard is like you deprived Ryujin of sleep and food for like 3 days, and then you unleashed him on a couple of VMs and told him it was all the contestants' fault.
Basically, yeah, you know how you need to treat Ryu.
Yeah, like a beast. So we hit him with a stick.
Oh, that guy is awesome though, really.
Oh,
he comes
he's evil.
up with the nastiest things. Every time he gets me on Skype, he tells me, I have an evil idea. And I was going to this, I was imagining this strange like theme.
Yeah. He sends me this PDF to look at, and I said, is it going to pawn my computer again? And he goes, well, when Mutz opened it up, it gave him a headache. So I haven't looked at it yet because I'm afraid. I said if it gives
You should be.
if it
You
gives
should
Mutz
be.
a headache, I mean, what's going to happen to me? Like my eyeballs are going to explode in my head.
Yeah, I like that guy. I really do.
So yeah, so I look forward to actually seeing that challenge. So that will be kind of cool. That will be really cool. Along the line of that, we got together with DEF CON, and we have launched our first social engineer CTF named How Strong Is Your Schmooze?
Correct.
Number 1. So we're pretty excited about that. I am excited about that personally. We just recently launched the registration page, and already people are filing in, registering for the contest. I think it's from what I've been hearing, the feedback from the people who have been reading it so far is this is really different than what's been out there before. So that's why I'm kind of excited about it. Planning out, giving people time ahead of time, pre-DEF CON, to do a lot of information gathering and develop a good attack vector, and then being able to launch that attack vector at DEF CON. I think it's going to really bring a lot of excitement to it. So we're working out the final stages, got all the rules worked out, got all the different things organized. So I think it's going to really be an awesome contest.
You know what I think is going to be strong about it this time around too is people can't just rely on the same old tricks that maybe they're professional pen testers and they use SE on a day-to-day basis. The way the contest is organized, they can't use the same tricks that they might have perfected day-to-day. They're going to have to come up with new routines and new pretexts and really put some effort into it. They can't just rely on the same old stuff.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I really like that part about this contest. When we sat down together, all of us, and we thought about the concept, it was kind of geared towards not who can do the most damage to a target, but who can use truly good social engineering tactics, professional social engineering tactics, to gain the most usable information. When I think that really is going to make the contest stand out, and it's going to be more difficult for, let's say, the lazy social engineers to just kind of come in and use the same old pretext, or try to get a password, or someone to give up something like that. The point value system that we have for the things that they have to obtain is going to make it a lot more difficult.
Yeah, there's a good question I saw I think it was in the DEF CON forums, where there's a big question that was asking, what is the actual flag that needs to be captured?
Yes, that was an excellent question, and I thought the answer that we gave that guy was also very good. I'm pulling up that answer now.
We need some Jeopardy music.
Yeah.
Where's Dave and his phone? Come on.
Well, hey, you know what just threw me off is Dave just pinged me, and he's at the hospital.
Oh my God, I can't believe this guy.
Neither can I. He's at the hospital with his wife, and she's not in labor yet, but they had some things they had to take care of. So he said he can't make it in. Sorry, he said I'm sorry I can't make it to the podcast. I told him and this is his last lame excuse from now on. No more excuses. Said it's time to get rid of the family and put your priorities in the right spot. No, I told him we wish him all the best, and that his wife, hopefully everything is good, and he'll get us later and tell us what's going on. But back to your question, Mutz, the question that came in. I thought that was a good question, because the guy asked, in a traditional sense, like in a hack contest, a flag is a physical thing, or a server, or a piece of information they have to obtain. So what's the flag in this contest? And the way we outlined it is a 20-minute phone call that they're going to have to make at DEF CON. There'll be a list of items, of information, that if they obtain, they're worth X amount of points. And we're not going to give that out early. We don't want to give that information out before DEF CON, so we don't want people to obtain that information early. So we have that list developed, and at DEF CON we'll give it to each contestant, and then as they're on the phone, they'll have to develop a plan to get that information from the target.
Yep.
And that will be the flag. So I'm excited to see kind of how that works. There'll be a lot of people having to think on the fly, really having to plan things out and move quick, think quick. So I think it will be a really nice contest. See how people pull that out.
Now, on either of these contests, do we accept bribes?
Of course.
Of course.
Bribes at opsec.com. This is a known email. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I mean,
I thought so. I just wanted to make sure that this was in effect for the contest as well. So
everything
Well,
we
you
do,
know-
we accept bribes.
The bribery is a valid attack vector in social engineering.
Yeah, and if they can social engineer us, that'd be great. But we'll see what happens.
oh, don't open that window.
Elwood,
The emails you will receive.
if you can social engineer Elwood, no.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Here's his cell phone number. No. Be nice to me then. No. So we're really excited about both of those contests. I think the OffSec CTF is going to really raise a lot of awareness what's going on in Africa and what Johnny's doing down there, over there, as well as giving some cash flow to help fund what's going on with Johnny in that part of the world. So I think that will be really nice to see how that turns out. And of course, giving Ryu a purpose in life to torture other people is always a good thing.
He needs the outlet, I think.
He does. If he doesn't, he hurts animals, small animals, and things like that. So we have to give him students to hurt. And the SECTF, really excited about that too. So before we get into the podcast for today, let's mention our sponsors. I know we talked about this one a couple months ago, but I really like to just mention the EFF again. They constantly are supporting us. EFF.org, the Electronic Frontier Foundation. They do. They've been supporting us with information and legal advice and help on a lot of things. When we have these podcasts or we have other information that we want to release, they're always available and there to help us to make sure that we don't mess up or do anything that can get us in trouble. So we really want to give a shout out to them, and of course our standing sponsor, Spy Associates, SpyAssociates.com. I know a lot of people write in and they look forward to our reviews every month of products. This month we don't have one, and there was a lot of
Fooled you!
Yeah, so psych. We have products and you don't. But we didn't really have the time to review anything this month with planning our CTFs, everything that's going on next month at DEF CON and Black Hat. So we're sorry that we don't have something to review, and next month hopefully we'll be back on track with that.
We promise?
Yes, well, I'm not promising anything. I promise maybe. The other thing that I think we should have mentioned on the OffSec, hack challenge. How strong is your tool? Tool is the prize.
Oh, yeah.
That's true. We didn't even mention that. We're so engrossed in the hacking. It's like, oh yeah. By the way, there's a ticket to Black Hat Prize. But
Right.
Forget that. You get to hack something.
Yeah, I know. We didn't even I think that's a big deal. I mean, we're sponsored with a Black Hat. They came in. They're helping us out. They put up a ticket for the winner.
Amazing show. Really
Amazing.
well done.
Yeah, Black Hat really came through. A lot of support from those guys. So we should give a massive shout out to them. But the winner of that challenge is going to Black Hat for free. So you can't really get a better prize than that. That's wonderful.
Free means a free pass from Black Hat. It doesn't mean travel expenses,
Correct.
Chris. You
Yes.
know that.
We should, disclaimer.
Free. Disclaimer. Does not
Disclaimer.
include travels, hotels.
Yeah, airfare,
hookers,
hotels, meals, travel, all not included. Read the small print. May cause cancer. So we definitely, I'm glad you brought that up, because we'll have people getting the winning and then not getting travel, and they'll be like, "What the heck? OffSec said you're covering my travel." And I think we should also probably talk a little bit about then the Social Engineer CTF, because we have a couple good things going up for that. Right? We have.
True, we're useless. We didn't even talk about the prizes, and the prizes are like the best things.
I know. We're so
We're absolutely useless.
We really are, because we're so focused, like I said, on the hacking. I mean, for OffSec stuff, I'm just excited to see the evil that Ryu spews out, and for the Social Engineer CTF, I'm excited to see how people actually come through on these things. So, and hack these targets. So we didn't even really think about all of that, but.
So what is the prize?
Well, we have a couple. The first place winner can choose either the Offensive Security Waifu course, or an iPad, a 16 gig iPad. So and I wanted to preload it with all sorts of stuff, but then Maddie brought up a good point that if I start hacking into it, people might think that I loaded it with a whole bunch of evil stuff, and that wouldn't be too good to anyone. So
I said that.
You did. You said if I
you just made that on the spot.
I did not make that up. I said to you on mine I have Set and I have Metasploit.
Wait, I have a song for you.
And I have
Go ahead.
Okay. I talked to Maddie about my desire to hack the iPad, and he wouldn't let me. You come to my
done.
iPad.
Well done.
Thank you. So anyhow, we're excited about that. Also, the winner of that contest will come onto our podcast, talk about the things that they did to win, be interviewed about their conquest in the Social Engineer podcast, Social Engineer podcast, be able to talk about their conquest in the CTF. So I look forward to that also. Okay.
Had like 7 words which you didn't manage to pronounce in the last sentence, or was that just me?
No, I think that was me. I definitely did not pronounce a lot of those words properly.
Okay, I was just getting worried. I was like, what? What's going on?
Yeah, I'm speaking like my tongue is cut off. So they're going to come on the podcast. Oh, boy.
So, what is today's podcast about?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, well, we had this great idea. A lot of people have been coming into our channel. Shameless plug. IRC channel, irc.freenode.net on Social Engineer, social-engineer. I know, terrible. Information security. So they've been coming in the channel, and we've been having a lot of discussions recently about the goals of social engineering and how it's changed over the years, and what things have worked in the past, do they still work today? And in a few discussions I've been having with some of like the best people in this industry, I started to talk about this topic, with people like Nickerson, Johnny Long, and I said, why don't we get together, have a podcast that will kind of outline these things, where we're going. Because, when we talk about like the evolution of the technology and security, it's easy to follow those things, but it's not so easy when it comes to social engineering. So we figured if we get all these people together, we have a really, really awesome panel planned for today, and start talking about these things, we might be able to outline what it was in the past and what it's going to be in the future.
So bottom line, social engineering, past, present, and future.
Yes, and there is the title we're going to use. Very good, Maddie. I like that.
You're welcome. Once again.
That's a nice one. Social engineering, past, present, and future. Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, 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 dun.
So, let us see. We should start inviting our guests. So, we got all of our guests logged on with us here, so we'll introduce everybody. We'll start, as they always say, with ladies first. Our first guest is Sharon Conhidi. Sharon is a director at First Defense Information Security in the UK. She specializes in social engineering and has social engineered her way into probably dozens of organizations all over the world. Sharon, I think we were talking a little bit. You have a training coming up, right, in September?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, at BrewCon. In Brussels.
That sounds like a fun one. So, what's the topic? What's the theme of the training? All in social engineering.
The training is all about how to run a social engineering testing engagement.
Excellent. Okay, so if you're interested in that, check that out on the BrewCon website, or you can just do a search for that. Will there be any information on your website about that, or will it be all at the BrewCon site?
Oh, there's information on my website as well, yeah.
Okay, good. So at the end, we'll make sure we plug that for anyone who's listening that wants to get more on that. So thanks for coming on, Sharon. We appreciate you being here with
problem.
us. We also have Chris Nickerson. Nickerson, we got you coming from layers.com, and I think everybody knows what you do, but we'll say that, Chris, you co-host the Exotic Liability podcast, and your, of course, profession is red team testing. And I think you told me something interesting, which really excited me. You got a book coming out real soon.
Yeah, hopefully, if I can actually write the thing. It's a work in progress, but it should be something fun. I've had some fun writing it in various different modes.
It's all centered on what you do for a living, so red team testing?
Yeah. So it's a blended real-world threat and getting an understanding of how to test stuff that's outside of the normal, this is a pen test, this is an apps test, and sort of centering testing around touching things in companies that matter the most to the company, opposed to just letting them prescribe their own medicine.
Awesome. I look forward to reading that. I really do. So that'll be great. And congratulations, because you just got married.
Thank you.
So congratulations on that, man, and welcome back from your vacation. All right.
Thanks.
Our next guest, Carlos Perez. Carlos, I hear you do security architecture, right? And you consult with multinational IT companies. You do some development for Metasploit. And, of course, probably most people know your voice from the Paul.com Security Weekly podcast. So we appreciate you coming on here also with us this day. How you doing?
Doing good. Glad to be here.
Yes. I wanted to tell you guys, because especially you, Carlos, because I know you talk to Dave a lot. Dave is usually here with us. Dave Kennedy is usually here with us. We were just telling all of our listeners he's not here right now because his wife is potentially giving birth. So he's in the hospital, and he logged in, if you can believe this mess, he logged into Skype from the hospital while his wife is getting checked out by the doctor to let us know why he couldn't come on the podcast today. So he said to say hi to all of you, and Carlos especially, because you were just talking to him the other day. But he won't be able to be here today. And then our fourth guest, which is going to just wreck me with his voice, but Johnny Long. Johnny spent his career as a professional hacker. And I know, just sitting here right in front of me on my desk, is a number of books that you've written, Johnny. Guide to Social Engineering, Dumpster Diving, Shoulder Surfing, The No-Tech Hacking, all these great books. But presently, you're down in Uganda, East Africa, focusing on your Hackers for Charity nonprofit organization. Tell me, what's the goal with Hackers for Charity?
Well, one of the things we're trying to do is we're trying to connect technologists, people that are into security and technology with good causes, finding outlets for their creativity, and also trying to change the face a bit of our community. I mean, we get a bad rap for, being a bunch of bad people, and, that's the minority. Most of us are good people. We have jobs and families and kids, some of us, and, there's a lot of good to be done in the world. So we're trying to find outlets for that. And most of that work's focused where we are right now in East Africa, because there's just a lot of need.
That's excellent, man. Excellent. I know that we talked about it briefly before we actually got you all on, because our How Strong Is Your Foo 2 cyber hacking challenge for OffSec is just getting launched now, and it's all based on helping you out there with your charity. So. We'll give the URL now, thehackersforcharity.org, but we'll give it at the end again so everyone can check it out if you're not familiar with it, see the things that are happening down there. So thanks for coming on today.
Yeah, thanks for all the support with that. That's really cool. You guys rock.
Not a problem, man. Not a problem. You're doing a good thing down there. So I guess for us, I should probably tell a little bit about what we're doing here today, because we got a big panel. We usually don't have this many people on our podcast all at one time, but we were just talking briefly about the evolution of security technologies, and I think we would all agree it's probably relatively easy to follow the evolution of these technologies. When a new technology comes out or it's introduced, it's not too difficult to follow the life cycle of either the success or failures of that technology. But with social engineering, that tends to not be the case so much, especially any kind of new ideas that come out with social engineering. We really can't follow them as well as you can with physical technology. So what we have here, give you guys all the best and brightest minds title. That's what we have here in our panel. We're going to discuss social engineering, where it came from, and what the future of social engineering holds. So that's kind of our goal with this podcast, more like a round table. So maybe we could just start off with our first question. I was thinking the biggest challenge. What do you think the biggest change has been in social engineering in the last few years? Maybe we could just go around the table, so to say. And Sharon, let's start with you. What do you think has been the biggest change in social engineering in the last few years that you've seen?
Well, I started social engineering professionally about 7 years ago, but in the past few years, the thing that's changed social engineering most for me has got to be social networking, without a doubt, and how much more interesting and to some extent easier that it's made social engineering. It's so easy to find out information about people, to find targets within the organization that you're trying to get into, get so much information on them. It's incredible.
Yeah, that is a very good point. Yeah, I would agree with that too. I think that has been a massive change that really has changed the face of SE. What do you think, Chris Nickerson? I guess, do I call you Nickerson or Chris? Because if I say Chris, people might think I'm talking to myself.
You just call me whatever you want. I don't care.
Hey, you.
Yeah, that works. So yeah, I agree with Sharon. I think it's the mechanisms and pathways for communication. Over time, email, whether it's instant messages, whether it's this Skype conversation, whether being able to give client side or browser side or any of those different types of attacks, or be able to pretext and actually use verification by building friendships and relationships online in various different methods. It started off they had to do it in person. Now people don't have to get the jitters of talking to somebody in person. They could do it on bulletin boards, and from bulletin boards to IRC and FNet, and from FNet out, and being able to now move that into pervasive social networking where I can see that I'm, X number of steps from someone in LinkedIn and just work my way to them. I think that's made it universally easier for everyone to get in touch.
I like the way you put that. It's like social networking almost gives us a path to hacking them.
Absolutely.
That's kind of cool. Carlos, what do you think about that? What's the biggest change we've seen in social engineering in the last few years?
What I have seen is that, for all, as the other members of the panel has mentioned, is that there has been a desensitization. I think that's the correct English word. Sorry for my English.
If not, we'll make it a new word.
Okay. It is that they're no longer sensitive about what information are they sharing, how much information are they sharing. They having all these social networks and trying just to fit in, and this new cultural thing that is happening, it's kind of making life a lot easier, especially when you're trying to social engineer somebody, either be it over the phone or just through regular email to one of the social networks. Also, another thing is that social engineering used to be kind of a black art. Not many people talked about it. Not many people documented techniques or talked about those techniques. It used to be kind of behind closed doors. It was usually mostly by con artists, some people in the military intelligence communities and other places. And right now it's kind of opening up to a larger audience, and we're kind of getting out there that message out. So I'm seeing that it's becoming a bit more popular, it's becoming a bit more out there for everybody to know that it exists, how it works, it is being used against them. But as always, people have not been able to put the policies in place because this is something new. They don't know how to handle it. So for us as pen testers, many of us, that actually gives us a very wide or big time window where we can operate without too many restrictions upon us.
Excellent viewpoints there. I appreciate that. And Johnny, what do you think has been some of the biggest changes you've seen in the last few years, especially with your travels all over the globe?
Well, first of all, I definitely agree with what everybody's saying. I mean, the pathways that you have are absolutely staggering. One thing that I've realized is that, it's very easy to create your own identity digitally, and that's one thing. It's become a lot easier because of all these, social networks and the mixed media that we have. But one thing that I've seen that seems to be a common element across the globe is that globally the level of technology has gone up. The public is more technologically aware. They understand the concepts of identity theft, and there's this not only knowledge of ID theft, but there's a fear of it, which has raised the stakes, at least raised the bar quite a bit in terms of the social engineering practitioners. And so you have to be more on your toes. You have more tools at your disposal, but your target's a little more hardened than it used to be.
Yeah, that's interesting too. Excellent viewpoints. I appreciate that.
So I think that goes right into our next question here, though. As far as, do you think that social engineering has gotten more complex over time? Are the old pretexts not working anymore, or is it harder to come up with new ones because individuals are a little bit more hardened and more used to having this sort of maybe more pervasive education to these sorts of issues? I guess we'll switch the order up a little bit here and maybe go to Nickerson here first on this one.
I don't know. I think, again, with those increased pathways, and as Johnny was saying, being able to create those identities, I think old tricks are easier to use because the pathway is more obfuscated. Being able to lie in person, or being able to pretext in person, or being able to read in person, I think is getting a little bit more observed as people are starting to put the information out there. Back to some of the black arts type comments, I think that there's going to be, or there are more organizations that are actually training against it. So the basic kind of dumb tricks don't work as easily, even though they work very easily. But we've increased a percentage somewhere. But I think that the amount of communication pathways opening up actually makes it easier than it does harder.
Interesting. Okay, so Carlos, anything to add to that?
Yeah, the way I see it, human nature will always be human nature. Let's say some of the tricks that probably will fail in the United States or some parts of the United States, at least in the region that I tend to work at, that is Central America and the Caribbean, they work perfectly. I think it will take time for people, or this knowledge, or being aware, it's going to take time for that to kind of expand to all regions. Also, not everybody is into technology. There's a lot of people who it is in their human nature to be trustworthy, to be trusting of other people. And there's always going to be that old lady in the Target that is going to be so nice to you that she's going to be, she sees you and she wants to be your grandma, and she's going to be able to give you access to information, other stuff that anybody else will not.
That's awful. That's awful. You paint an awful picture, I have to tell you.
Abusing my grandma, Carlos? You're abusing my grandma?
The way I see it, I try to be as cold as possible when I'm approaching a project. Also, I tend to kind of keep some stuff out of my reports at the end. But I do believe that human nature is always going to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, if you try to social engineer me, probably it's going to be harder than if you try to social engineer my wife. She's extremely active in church, and she's always trying to give everybody as much as possible. So it isn't the human nature of everybody. It's not like a system that you can patch. So it's always going to be available, that venue of attack, wherever you go.
Both your answers give no indication of like some degree of higher awareness in the population over the past years. It seems like what you're saying is that the awareness to these types of issues, the awareness of the importance of your personal information hasn't gone up, and just the access to that information is being made easier.
Well, I can definitely comment on that. I mean, I think that while there's a tendency to have more awareness, I think that the absolute proliferation of information, how it's exploded in so many different directions, in some cases makes this a bit easier. I can definitely see the argument that a straight SE gig is tougher in some instances than it was, say, 5 years ago. But I think what we see now is that you have so many other avenues that if you step back and you try to find a different angle, there's always other paths to that information. And that's one thing that I was trying to highlight, with a bit of humor in no tech hacking, was that, if one pathway is blocked, there's always 3 or 4 others. And I think that practitioners who are really good at this see those pathways.
Interesting.
Yeah. So Johnny, would you say with that in mind, Have you seen that it's gotten more difficult, or would you say it's just roughly about the same?
Well, I think the awareness has gone up. People are talking about it, but in terms of the level of difficulty, this is the classic, the same approach that you're looking at with InfoSec. You've got a castle, and for years we've been storming the gates, and people are aware that that's a primary avenue of attack. I think what we're starting to see with SE is that now there's these other lines of attack, and especially with the digital, social networks that being involved, to be able to pull a little bit more information together and try something a little more slightly more subversive instead of trying a direct approach. I guess what I'm trying to say is that the old calling the help desk and asking for password game is finished, but that's certainly not all there is.
Interesting. So, Sharon, what's your perspective from the European perspective there? Do you think it's gotten more complex, roughly about the same, or?
I think I agree. People are certainly a lot more aware of social engineering within certain departments in organizations, so the dumb tricks don't work as well. But you've got so many options. The amount of information that's available gives you so many possible pretexts you could use. So, I can't ring up and say I'm from Help Desk, but I can look up your Facebook profile and I see that your favorite pizza is Domino's ham and pineapple or something. So I arrive in as a Domino's delivery person with your pizza, get into your organization, or I send you a voucher for it. So it's just the sheer proliferation of information.
Yeah, I'm not.
Wait. What does that
It's
mean?
not
Never
me,
accept
you
free
get
pizza,
pizza.
huh?
Don't accept free pizza. That's been my rule since the beginning of this. That's a good one.
Okay. I guess I have a question which relates more to the physical side, the physical security in the social engineering aspects of it. The more 007 type operations where you need to sneak into somewhere or pop a USB drive with some malware on it. How common is this in engagements, and how deep does the operation go in terms of execution? Carlos, I think you're involved in were involved in physical security. What do you have?
I used to be involved in physical security. The way I see it is, depending on the organization, it could be very easy or it could be very hard. In my case, since I cover so many countries, it even goes down to the country. Let's say, right now I'm in Costa Rica. Right here, doing a physical assessment is quite easy. Getting in, getting out, there's not many controls being implemented in most buildings to the social environment that the people here in this country live in. They're very trustworthy. In fact, in a recent pen test here, I was able just to give the USB to the secretary at the desk and tell him, oh, these are the documents I was supposed to give to the CEO. Tell him that this is the documents that the guys from Sun told him that he was going to receive. And she actually just went with the USB drive, went into the machine of the CEO and just plugged it in. And herself, for him, and just as when he arrived, he just told her, here, I just plugged that into your machine. They gave you this information. Now, when I used to do physical pen testing, if we went to Colombia, they're more on the ball over there in terms of physical security. Just trying to get enough time between the rotation of guards to be able to lockpick a door was a total nightmare. They were pretty well on the ball, changing times of the shifts of the guards, changing everything. Just doing that pre-planning was kind of hard, trying to find those patterns inside the time frame we were working on. So it depends also on the company and depends also on the nature of where you're working at.
So company and geography, basically.
Yeah.
Which was the hardest country that you were in? Which was the most stringent country that you would classify?
Colombia. They shoot first.
Colombia.
Later.
I was just thinking about that. It's scary to go in an engagement in Colombia. One wrong move and hey, but my go out of letter free jail is in my backpack.
Yeah, and very recently I've seen a kind of an upscale in some of the countries. I went to Panama to do a work over there, and all the guards have shotguns, all of them with fingers on the trigger, and I'm whipping that boy around like I was completely nervous always when I was there around the security folks. I was kind of like, oh God, doesn't train these guys, but it was very easy to get a uniform of a delivery guy, just get in. They didn't train their guys. It is a bit more dangerous in some ways because they're not trained so well, opposed to going somewhere where the people are trained very well. Let's say in Panama, you can get a delivery guy uniform and just walking up the door in many companies over there and not be stopped. Also the same for Santo Domingo or Jamaica. In the United States, it tends to be a bit more safer. Using armed guards is not that common, so working there is a bit more safer for your health.
Okay.
I can definitely second that. I mean, when you're talking about, facilities that are using armed guards, or you're doing government military testing, things like that, at least in my experience, the James Bond, deep black stuff is strictly a military operation. If it's solely a military operation, it's military performing the testing against a military target, you'll see some of that stuff. But in my experience, it's never been necessary to go with the full, James Bond routine. In my experience, it's always been better to just, be one of the locals, to create a presence which is non-aggressive, to blend in. And the tendency that I tend to pick is to, sort of be a bit of a bumbler and, to completely throw them off. So first of all, I'm not getting shot, but secondly, they recategorize you. If they flag you as a threat, they at least ratchet down the threat level to give you some room where, something like an SE is going to work. I always prefer to be an employee, a consultant. You mentioned delivery. The delivery angles are always excellent, especially when you can back that up with some sort of technological credibility, a phone call to a supervisor, that works for your delivery company and, things like that. Those kind of scams go quite a bit better, and don't end up with you shot either.
Yeah, in fact, winning over people. I'm working right now here in Engagement in Costa Rica. It's not a pen test or red team. Actually, we're doing some vulnerability assessments and doing.
Wait with that, because we have a section for interesting engagements at the end.
No, it's not. It's mostly going along with what Johnny was saying. One of my coworkers, the way he's getting in here, almost always we are being stopped by the guards, is he won over the locals by just, after he left the hotel, he takes a bunch of candy from the reception and just starts giving it out to the guards. And he's not a pen tester. He just goes like, oh, I always do that every time I travel. It helps me with the security people to go through the security checkpoints faster. I was going like,
his mom should have told him about candy from strangers. That's all.
But that's exactly what worked for the diamond thief in Antwerp a couple of years ago as well. So just sheer bribery.
Really?
Oh,
what was that about?
Yeah, the diamond thief in Antwerp, I think around maybe 2007, he just made friends with everybody in the bank that he took to the cleaners. He used to bring in chocolate and flowers and made friends with the staff. So it absolutely works, bribing people. Whether or not it's ethical for an ethical social engineering assignment is a different question.
Those two
I don't know
words
about
actually
ethics. I don't think anybody. If you talked about drugging the candy, I think then you're talking about candy is their game.
Very
Nickerson.
effective, though.
Nickerson, you do this a lot as well. What do you have to say about this? What is the state of physical security today?
I don't know. I think, with the acceleration of attacks kind of up the OSI model and people focusing on app stuff, we're starting to get to the point where people are going back around the curve and looking at physical security again. And I feel like over the last probably 10 years, it's gotten worse because people have been so focused on putting their funding towards give us cool network toys, give us cool unbox toys, give us cool presentation layer toys and application layer toys, that they've moved farther away from the spend and actually looking at security from a physical perspective. So, I mean, we do those type of engagements a couple times a week, and I would say long more now than ever before. We find it much easier to get in physically than I did, say, 12 years ago when I was doing it.
I see.
Yeah, that's interesting. You know, I was thinking, Sharon brought up an interesting point about ethical social engineering. So maybe just throw this out there to you guys. What do you think the difference is between ethical and unethical social engineering? And maybe well, we could start with Johnny. You wanna give us a little bit on that?
So the question is, I guess, where do you draw the line?
Yeah. What is your view on what would constitute crossing that line from ethical to unethical SE?
Well, I think part of it is you have to consider the ripple effect. If you start delving into if you're on a social engineering line that's going to affect somebody's personal life, that brings someone's personal life into a professional engagement, you've certainly crossed the line. And also the standard answer, I think, to this question to anybody that does this professionally is, how far are you outside the scope of work? If this is, once you start straying and this becomes a game and you get more ego driven into, just wanting this con to work out, and you lose sight of the job, what you're there to do, which is ultimately protection. And you're doing harm either to someone personally or you're dragging things in that really aren't part of the job, you've certainly crossed the line.
Yeah, I think that sounds about what I was thinking too. But let's see, what do you think, Sharon, about that? Since you kind of brought up the whole thought anyway.
Yeah, I'm kind of sorry I did. I think that's a tough one. I think when you begin to compromise people's personal values, that becomes unethical. So going back to the whole bribing thing again, some people may be poorly paid and really need the money. So if you offer them money, they may take it. But where does that leave them when the social engineering test has finished? How can they honestly work for that same organisation? How could they continue to work there? So when you think about things like that, Johnny, like you said, the ripple effect, what happens afterwards as well, that's when the ethics come into it.
Yeah.
It's a fine line, though. It's a fine line, because what happens to the guy that was stupid enough to fall for the phishing attack and then talk to you and give you his password on the phone? You have to think about things like that. I mean, that guy could probably get smacked on the head as well.
Yeah, we've dealt with this. We've dealt with this in physical assessments as well, and one of my mentors, Vince, who I talked about, lots of stories that I have about physical stuff involve Vince. He taught me a very valuable lesson when we had a successful physical break-in. I was a phone guy and social engineered my way past this guard, and in the heat of the excitement of this thing and writing up the report, I realized that I had just painted a big fat arrow right towards this this guard in the report, and he's that the after effects of this are staggering. This guy is probably going to lose his job. The effects on his family and his ability to get a job in that line of work is going to be affected forever. And I was writing my reports differently as a result to try to obfuscate the shift that it was on. Whether it was a male or a female. All these things come into play. Where you do the report, you get your job done, but at the same time, ethically speaking, you're doing as little damage as possible. You tread as lightly as possible.
Yeah, we're the same. We would never directly identify people in a report, although it can be reasonably easy to track them back. But what we tend to emphasise is that in that particular case, if they were to get rid of the security guard, they'll just get a new person to fill his place who may not be aware of social engineering. And I tell you what else, that security guard probably won't fall for that same technique that you tried, okay, Johnny, again. So he's learned something out of it. Might as well.
That's true.
That's a good point. That's a really good point, Sharon. Now, Chris Nickerson, your level of social engineering auditing is completely different, because you're doing the red team testing from what we're talking about here. So how does this apply to you, like this line of ethics versus being unethical?
Customer defined.
Good answer.
I love that answer.
Hey, you want us to torture your employees? Yes. Done.
Yeah. If their policy dictates that that's an allowable thing to occur in order to preserve the integrity of their organization, then that's a policy vector that you have to test. So there's a very distinct line in where their policy meets what they signed up for as a job, and it's our job to ride that line to understand where their training and where their evangelization and where those types of things fail in the organization in order to quote unquote patch some of these issues.
Mm-hmm. So that's a decent way of thinking of it. So that would be completely defined by the customer. Interesting.
Contract-driven ethics.
Well, it's a way to, I won't do anything horrible. I mean, I won't implant things into people's general operating mechanisms that are going to destroy their life. It's just not in my ethical standard. It may be in other people. But, we obviously know how to do that type of stuff and shy away from that because I believe it's just wicked and horrible. But,
I'm kind of being facetious when I say, contract-driven, ethics.
No,
but bottom line is the bad guys are going to do anything,
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's much easier to be a bad guy. And I think that a company who cares enough about testing their security, that's willing to take the gloves off, is that's a good thing. The bad guys don't have rules.
Yeah, and I totally agree. I think, we obviously try and provide them some type of moral compass in the way that we scope some of those engagements to make sure that they're not going overboard. Because oftentimes, especially when you get, as you put it, right, that James Bond style of testing, they go, yeah, do that, and do this too. And I saw this cool thing in a movie, and I want you to do that. And you kind of have to work them back to how does this really fit into your business, and how are we going to relate this back to policy, procedure, technology, whatever. And, is there a fix for it, or am I just testing something so that you could see a cool video? And if I'm doing that, this isn't the time or place for it. If I'm doing things to support the business, support the bottom line, ensure the protection not only of the organization but your personnel, then, we get to provide some of that barometer for them and have the conversation versus them just purely dictating everything.
Yeah.
But if you get to keep the cool gear, then you're all for it.
Yeah, usually that flexes my morality a bit.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yay, toys.
What's interesting in Europe as well is the privacy laws between the different countries. So what you can't do, that's within the privacy law. I had an SE job in Italy a while back, and I was able to get into the building, but I wasn't allowed to touch anything on people's desks. So I could see all these open lockers, all these drawers I could have looked in for keys, passwords, what have you, and I wasn't allowed to touch them. It was driving me crazy.
That's awful.
Yeah, Carlos, do you experience this maybe also because of your travel? You do a lot internationally when it comes to this aspect.
In fact, privacy laws in my region, only on the islands that used to be colonies or are colonies of European countries is where I'm finding privacy laws that kind of restricts our rules of engagement when we're working. Also, one of the things I like to do is kind of go over my report with the middle management before it goes to upper management, and try to get them and give them, as Chris said, that moral compass. Like going like, look, this guy, he really messed up, but he's going to be kind of our evangelist inside of your organization, trying to get this message out. Let's not put him here. Let's just say or go over what training he got so he wouldn't be able to be social engineered. Oh, he didn't get any training, so actually it's not his fault. How can we improve your policies? And try to give that moral compass over there. Because if we start kind of getting people into trouble, that can always backfire on us when we need to get another contract with this client, because we messed somebody up who was in the lower part of the food chain at the company. Over time, he might be in a higher place, and he will definitely remember us.
That's a good point.
Yeah, because I guess when you guys were all answering, here's what popped in my head. This account with Hewlett Packard. What was it? Just a year or two ago. One of the CEOs hired a social engineering firm to look into the other board members because there was a leak of information, proprietary information, and the SE company didn't just social engineer Hewlett Packard. They social engineered each board member's personal phone company, cell phone company, got their cell phone records, got their personal home records, hacked into their personal email accounts, and got information there.
Their wife's records also.
I'm sorry?
Their wife's records also.
Right, their wife's records, their family's records. So, I mean, what is your feeling on that? Does that cross the ethical boundary as far as ethical or unethical social engineering?
In my case, yes, that does cross the line. And in fact, I believe that Hewlett-Packard was even taking over to the Senate to kind of testify on that on the Senate by using those practices. Also, right now, I have friends inside Hewlett-Packard that told me that was a big shift inside the company when that happened. Yeah. Right now, they are obligated to go every 3 months into an ethics and compliance training. All of them, every 3 months, and it's mandatory for all employees. Also, they're going through some security training every 6 months. There's also obligatory about telephone calls, how to handle client-side information. So that was kind of a big wake-up call for them, and that is what they sadly learned it the wrong way through making the mistake and just getting slapped behind the head very hard. That's where we come in with other companies and trying just to make that slap a bit more soft, so it won't hurt that.
Because I'm with you, Carlos, on that. Because I think we're not personally I'm not bashing HP because it wasn't HP that did the social engineer. I'm just curious as far as those principles of taking that SE gig and now branching it out to get information so badly that they hacked these people's wives and their children and their personal accounts. What do you guys? What do the other guys think? Like Nickerson, what do you think about that as far as the ethics of that?
No, I mean that's messed up. I mean they should be fired and run out of business as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
You go outside the scope, that's your bad. There's no one else to blame. It's all you. And if you do things outside of the scope that are illegal, you deserve to go to jail for it. Because it has nothing to do with what you're contracted to do.
Excellent. Yeah. What do you think, Sharon?
I think it's a step or two further than I would go for sure, but that's not to say it doesn't work and the bad guys don't do it.
Just a step or two. Wait.
Yeah, I think it goes to show though if you're targeting an individual for social engineering, you don't necessarily have to target them directly. You can target their friends, their family, other people who are connected to them who are not as security aware.
Yeah, I agree that is definitely a ploy that's used by the bad guys often. Johnny, what do you think about that?
Well, I mean, my perspective on it is that this is the kind of thing that's absolutely fair game for government, state-sponsored agency, and military operations. It's just something you do. It's black. It's messy. I don't think it has any real place in the in the context that it was done in. And that's, I think, the point. I think the rules change based on your client, your target. For government military operations, the gloves are off, and this is just standard fare. But I think what we're talking about is, the context in which it was done. It certainly didn't suit.
Yeah, and the private sector is more dangerous since there are a lot of laws out there that we have to follow, and those laws change from state to state, also from country to country. What we can do, what we cannot do, and also all of the ramifications that come with that in terms of our own conscience of what we just did.
Yeah, that's a good point, Carlos.
Here's another question. This is something that Chris and I were talking about earlier. where do you see social engineering going in the next few years? How do you see the future of social engineering? Taking into account, the development of social networks and any other unexpected things which may come. Chris Nickerson, what do you think about this?
I think with some of the technology that's out there, I mean, even some of the groups that I've been starting to do some work with are coming out with some really neat stuff. Really neat stuff around language detection, really neat stuff around facial coding detection. Some of my clients that are casinos are starting to build facial coding detection stuff into their facial analysis software that they use tables. I mean, to see if someone is lying to the dealer. It's unbelievable some of the work that they're actually doing. So some of those things from the kind of physical and language perspective, I think, are starting to be picked up and starting to be used in technology. I mean, you even see kind of smaller versions of this with people doing psychoanalysis based on their Twitter feed. Do you see this going into practice in the social engineering field, though? Do you see like social engineers using this type of software to identify moods and things like that? Do you actually think that there'll be an integration? I think that the kind of general hacker mindset is that anything that can be used for defense can be turned and used for offense. So I think that we're going to find a lot of new technologies at our disposal, as well as at the defense's disposal, except our versions will probably be hacked together free versions, and theirs are going to cost a whole lot of money that they can't afford. So I
like any other field, you're saying.
Yeah, I think that there's going to be yet another spike of a whole new tool set to use, but that tool set is going to be very, very limited in who can use it.
Yeah. Interesting. Sharon, what's your take on this? What do you think the future of social engineering is?
Well, I think social engineering has always been a bait and hook game, if you like, but the bait that we've seen to date has not been that interesting, or it's been really inaccurate. Like, we've had all these phishing emails with bad grammar and poor spelling, but I think that the bait is getting a lot more interesting. So in terms of phishing emails, they're looking better, and each time I get one I think I could do that so much better, and eventually somebody else is going to think they could do it so much better. But what's interesting for me is when the bait is real world bait, if you like. So something within the real world lures people to log on to a website or to call a particular number, and I think that'll get really interesting. So an example was last year when those the parking tickets were left on cars that made people log on to a particular website. Even if you're fairly clued up on security, because that's nothing really to do with computers, or it's not coming in via your email, you're less likely to suspect it.
Yes.
You're saying the vectors are going to become more acute and become more targeted.
More targeted and more imaginative, I think.
Yeah.
I remember that parking ticket one. I mean, you hate to say it because it was malicious, but that was quite genius.
It was pretty clever, yeah.
Yeah, it was quite genius.
Johnny, what do you think about this future?
Well, I think it's kind of an interesting place right now. We've watched it with InfoSec, where there wasn't a lot of science to what we did for a long time. Everybody had their own methods and their own ways about going about things, and some science entered the industry. We've seen it with forensics, with digital forensics, where it was just people doing the best they can and mucking with it, and you see procedures put in place, and you start to see laws enacted based on those procedures and in response to those procedures. And I think the same thing is going to be happening here. There is more awareness. There are people that are talking about this out, in the private sector, as opposed to this being, black ops military type stuff. And I think we're seeing some great advances. I don't personally know exactly what those things are going to be. I'm intrigued by the stuff that Chris talks about with, the facial recognition. I know lots of projects in the military have been doing similar things, that are security based. And, I'm excited to see what's going to happen. I think we're on the verge of some really cool stuff.
Yeah, undoubtedly. Carlos.
Yeah.
The way I see it is that it's getting to be more kind of like a framework, what we're seeing out there happening with social engineering and the types of attacks. And we're even seeing on most of the commercial tools. For instance, Core Impact. Core Impact has some very nifty templates for emails when you're doing those types of attacks. And what can we say if the bad guys can use that tool also? They can buy it. Right now they're making tons of money getting into people's systems. And they can even take that as an example and kind of improve themselves. In fact, what I have been seeing actually is that they're quite improving a lot their baits, as the other member said. Debates are getting better and better. And also what I'm seeing and part of us as a community is that we're sharing more disinformation. There are more studies going into this kind of field, and we're also seeing, as Chris mentioned, the scientific approach to it, and it's kind of advancing a lot, and we're getting deeper understanding of all of this information that is going inside of this area of attacks.
Interesting. So guys, I want to ask a little bit more of a personal question. Within this field of SE, there's a lot of preconceptions that people that aren't involved in the area and in the industry that have with this, where they think it's all about scams or lying to people. That sort of real negative connotations. Have you ever dealt with any sort of stigma and where people are just straight out skeptical as far as where there may be value with your social engineering work, and how did you overcome it? We'll start with Sharon here.
Well, an obstacle I've encountered in the past is when I explain to people what social engineering is, and they say, "Oh yeah, well you'd get in here. There's no point in trying." So you just explain the benefits, but in terms of people being slightly suspicious of you, I don't think I've really come across that. They're suspicious of me after I go in. There was one place I visited 3 years in a row, and the third year I went in, and the receptionist says to me, "Oh, you're the lady. They've gotten all the posters around the place. You're not allowed in here."
You earned a reputation there.
Yeah, I was a bit put out. They used my picture.
So what do you think, Johnny? I know you deal with that a lot with HFC, but specific to SE, have you ran into that at all? The whole stigma issue?
Not really. I mean, I run into situations where people, will act like it's the bastard child to the real security work to be done in InfoSec. And I have run into a few situations, in side discussions where, people say, well, there's always an easier way to do this, digitally and, that sort of thing. I haven't run into much stigma around it. I just haven't seen that. But, part of the reason is, I had a preemptive strike and, no tech hacking, and it was just, a obliteration of all the, fairy tales that had been floating around where people said, that stuff just doesn't work anymore. People get this stuff. And, my answer to that was no tech. And, all this stuff, dumpster diving and shoulder surfing and, all these things that are, part and parcel to the whole, SE circle, that stuff still works. The low tech approach is still amazingly effective. And, I think after hundreds of pages, I sort of shooed away all the discussions about it losing its relevance. And, some of the stories and things like that were so utterly ridiculous that it just pretty much took that off.
Very nice. Very nice. So, Carlos, what do you think? Anyone say that you're just lying to people and nothing more?
Yeah. In fact, I've gotten that a lot. In fact, you have to spend a couple of minutes, probably an hour or two, just trying to make them see the value in social engineering. Many clients, in fact, many of the clients are just going like in dollars and cents. What am I going to get out of it? And whatever you find, how am I going to implement it, and how am I going to measure that to see if I really got my money's worth? And it's kind of a bit hard. In fact, many of the big companies are kind of seeing the light. fact, I've had clients start giving out filters to all the laptops, so kind of make it a bit more difficult to do shoulder surfing and trying to see what the other people are doing. They're trying to implement programs. But I'm only seeing on the big clients. On the SMB side, is quite open, as far as I've seen on the SMB side.
Excuse me.
In fact, no problem. In fact, I just saw a bank start a program where the internal red team was doing a bunch of social engineering attacks, phishing attacks, and all of that, and they start kind of making public the reports to the entire organization. And they made the report open, like, we were able to get X amount of hits on a phishing attack from this department. And then what they'll do is a month later or 2 months later, they'll, without any warning, they'll kind of redo that phishing attack. And then what they see is they'll kind of measure those hits. They'll kind of know if it actually worked or not, and start getting people more in tune of what is happening. Because right now they're saying, ooh, I got burned. I was the one who kind of messed it up for my department by clicking on that email. Or when they say that 2 people were there, I was one of those 2 people. And I'm seeing that on big companies. But on the SMB side, kind of getting those programs for awareness is quite hard. Just try
sort
to
of name and
them
shame.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very good. So Nickerson, what about you? Anyone just call you a big liar and nothing else, or do they see the value?
Oh yeah, I mean, I suck at just about everything, so it's okay. I don't really mind. Yeah, most of the time it's my friends who are exploit developers who are the biggest opponents of how I don't do anything, and how, like, what we do isn't a technology or anything else, and it's just lying, and how it's useless, and blah 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 blah. And I just say, that's funny. Let's play a game. Like, I'll race you into an organization to see who can steal more faster. And they always lose, which is okay. But then they just consider it cheating when I win. So it's one of those things that I think, from having so many years of misconception, and from so many years of people kind of branding it as lying or whatever else, that they forgot that the real word social, as in to deal with people, and engineering as a distinct process or methodology to use in something, context and structure. I think that they kind of took all of those things out of it and just equated it to lying, which everyone knows that they can do. So it's much harder to see an advancement in skill sets, whereas you have other people who say, I'm a exploit developer, and here's the 15 different products that I've put Ode out on, and here's the 40 different languages I can code in, and this and that. You can build those skill sets, but since people don't have the same type of clinical understanding of the different aspects of it, there isn't there isn't currently a lot of people going, oh, well, we could have a whole SE track at a con instead of, oh, we already have an SE speech at a con.
I'm with you on that one. I'm with you there.
And I think that keeps promoting that same kind of myth, right? I mean, I could give 10 different talks on communication structures that are all completely different, that are under the subtopic of SE. Or by the same token, we could talk about things, differences between, sets and pretexts and stuff like that. And we could have a huge conference just built around it, but people would go, well, what do you mean? It's a bunch of SE talks. It's going to be the same thing, like someone how to tell a lie, and I already know how to do that.
Yeah.
But I guess that's my experience with it currently, is that it's still so misunderstood that I can't fault people for going, you kind of suck at this, and you should be a coder instead of a liar.
Yeah, we experienced some of that when we started, socialengineer.org. People thought the same thing. They came in the channel and they would say that a lot. Well, all you're really doing is just telling people how to lie. What's so special about that? We can get that from anywhere. And they don't really grasp the concepts that social engineering is so much more than just deceiving people. There's so many psychological and physical aspects to it that I think I agree with you, Chris. A lot of people just don't see it really as a science yet. But let's think here. I thought if you guys wanted, maybe you can share a story, leaving the names of anybody or companies out, of course, but share a story from one of your professional social engineering audits, something that would maybe define how special it is and why social engineering works, and give us a little background on some of the things that you've done in this account. Carlos, you able to start us off with one?
Yeah, I think the most memorable one for me was that there was a bank that was auditing, and what I did almost throughout all the week was just visit different offices in the bank and just started going there as the company as I worked at, just trying to get the security guards to always see me around. And then one day a bunch of employees were going through the employee entrance and just kind of tailgated behind them. And the security guard, since he already knew my face or saw my face as somebody related to the business, let me through. I got in. I walk up to the building in the campus where they had their data center. I kind of started turned my badge around so they couldn't see my badge since it was the same form and size as their internal badge. I started talking on the phone, kind of fighting with somebody. Everybody was ignoring me because I was shouting. So I was able to tailgate very easily because they didn't want to kind of engage me because they saw me kind of like being mad or being kind of engaging in foul language with the person or the supposed person at the other side of the phone. Then went into the data center building and just kind of find out that they were fixing the air conditioner and the door kind of had a wedge and was open. Went in, and about 2 hours later, the client that signed the contract with us found me on the console where they were running the database system that actually was for fraud detection. So if I would have had an account in that bank, I could have just said, okay, transfer X amount of money to this account if I wanted. And I was just right there kind of looking at it and seeing like, I take a screenshot of these. Everything I'm seeing are bank numbers and social security numbers and money amounts. Everything's going to have to be blacked out. It's going to be a big black...
a big black square.
Yeah, and back then, not all cell phones had cameras, so it was going like, I forgot to bring my camera. How am I going to take pictures?
Look, kids, this is when I hacked the bank and could have made $15 gazillion.
Yeah, I was just sitting there, like going, like, how am I going to prove this to the middle management? Until I saw him just walking by, and when he saw me, just seeing his jaw completely drop down to the floor, and said, "Ooh, now I got the evidence to show in the report." He saw me on the system.
Nice.
Excellent story. Hey, Johnny, what about you? You have one you want to share?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple that are favorites. One that really takes me back is we had a gig for a major oil company, and basically there were two phases to it. The first phase was our first goal was to find what they called the vault, which was basically their data center. And it was just a fancy name for their data center and all their backups and all that. And the second objective was to find their control room, and the control room was the most interesting target because that was where the majority of their pipeline was controlled from. The computers and the systems that were in that room had direct control over their international pipeline. So it had some terrorist interest as well. And basically getting into that was a couple of days of scoping, the site physically, which was huge. It was a massive site with a huge fence and barbed wire and, all that stuff. Finding a break in the fence wasn't a big deal because it was so huge. But the bulk of the work, even though it was a physical assessment, boiled down to social engineering. And it was being caught multiple times within the facility as an outsider, and having lots of people call us, on that. It was obviously their security awareness was high enough that people were saying, these guys don't belong here, these two guys don't belong here. But I was a phone guy. I had a toolbox that I had just that I brought along for the gig, and I had stolen or I should say borrowed some of those faceplates from payphones, the ones that tell you how to put the coins in the slot and have the logo on it. I had those sort of pasted to the top of my toolbox with lots of stuff in there. And I had a clipboard, which, obviously meant I was a supervisor of some kind. And I was going through, and, me and the guy that I was with were basically doing a survey of, phone stuff. And it was a long series of very small, SE gigs where, the first guy that stopped us said, hey, you guys can't be out on this field without Nomex. And of course, I had no idea what Nomex was, but, it's that flame retardant stuff that, keeps you from burning all your flesh off out in the field.
Yeah, that's a good thing to have.
Which, would have been a good thing to have come with.
Yeah.
And to the first guy, it was, we left it in the truck. We'll pick up a set when we get inside, talking about when we get inside of the building. That worked for the first guy. And then the second guy said, you guys are supposed to have the Nomex on. I'm going to have to call security. And I said, hey, thanks. I highly thanked the guy and said, hey, I really appreciate it. We're actually doing an audit right now, so just basically encouraged him catching me and played right into that. And what was so interesting about that gig was basically every person that we ran into in every location throughout that whole gig was basically a slightly different ploy. To the point that, we eventually did make it into that control room. We sort of bumbled our way into it, and it even asked directions from people inside the facility as to where the vault was, and the fact that, we could go in and be so outright, in a place that had such, intense consequences in terms of security failure, that we could be so outright as to go around and ask people to point to us on the map where the vault was, and, was just absolutely staggering. But after that first day, we found our way into the control room. We found the, pipeline access control system. We got some pictures, we got some documentation out of the room, and got out clean that first day. So anyway, after the second day, basically what happened was that was the only time we were ever caught, because we went back into the facility a second time, and it just so happened that we popped our heads up into the lobby during a fire drill when the building was empty. But it was a really interesting gig, lots of tiny, small cons all coming together into one, just epic win for our team. And ultimately, their security was improved across the board just because of the number of tactics that we used to do it.
Excellent. That's an excellent story there. Thanks for sharing that one. Hey, Nickerson, what do you got for us?
Geez. I don't know. Recently, it was really fun. We were doing some tag team work with one of my guys, and they had gone in wearing shirts from the power company that serviced the area that the data center was in. And he was in there kind of talking his way through what was going on. And, the fluidity of the situation changed really quickly when the guards started giving him kind of some trouble about getting in there. But we already knew it was going to happen because there are people in the data center 24 hours a day sitting in like a command console room. So as he's kind of working different methods, one of the people from the data center came out and sort of called out, "Hey, you're from this company, aren't you?" And he goes, "Yeah," and kind of, they let him in. So he gets in there, and they start going through what's going on. And since we had done some external testing, we were able to kind of corroborate some information through types of systems that they had. We already knew logins to those systems and stuff like that. So he jumped on their computer and said, well, here's the alerts that we got and why we came out. And they had problems with a moisture control alarm on their Liebert system. And in the meantime, he's recording the conversation and sending it to me, and I was hanging out outside. So I obviously, had a minute or so worth of, interest of being able to look at all of that. Then we had a couple minutes because he suggested the guy, he goes, "Oh, will you smoke?" I said, "Yeah." So they go outside to smoke together. And I was parked on the other side of the building, and I'm sitting there looking up what these particular alarms are on the system so that I could figure out how to fix it. So I'd actually, be able to provide a little value there as well. So I'm looking through how to do some of that stuff and walk in and kind of take control of the situation and say, oh, well, here's what's going on. And most likely you actually have a problem with the, having high head pressure in the Liebert, and it's not necessarily a moisture alarm. It's oil coming out because of a fan. And, and I'm kind of dropping all of this stuff, and the guy's just sort of shaking his head and wondering what's going on. And so I'm down there, oil and water up to my arm, cleaning underneath this Liebert system and hanging out underneath while I'm like installing a wireless access point and clipping an Ethernet cable. And Eric's up top laughing and kind of moving the guy around and asking him if he can go into another area because they have alerts Titan system that we found externally that we got creds on through a flaw in their web interface. And so he's now on the other side of the building, and he has these guys running all over the place trying to find stuff. And I come out, covered head to toe in oil and water and all this other crap. And then the guy's kind of screaming and yelling because the Liebert tech hasn't come out, and they called him at 4 o'clock, and this was about 1 a.m. So I told them, just to kind of push it because it was fun at that point. I told them to call the Liebert tech, and I'll explain to them what's wrong. So, having full confidence in our research, we called the Liebert tech, and I just tore into this guy about how he needed to come down there and what head pressure level the thing was at, and that if he lets it wait, that I'm going to make sure that the place that we were doing the testing charges them, and it's going to cost them, tens of thousands of dollars to recreate head pressure, and they're going to lose the whole data center if he doesn't hurry up and get down there. And the two guys on site were like laughing and like cheering me on. They're like, "Yeah, get him, get his ass." And we get done with that, and they're kind of all laughing. They're like, "Man, we're so glad that you guys came in." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's no problem. You guys have another couple of hours before you're gonna have any issues with it." And it turned down some head pressure settings and stuff on the Liebert. I had like never worked on one of those systems ever. And it was great just because with a couple minutes worth of lead time, we were able to come in as probably just as skilled as somebody who's been working on these things forever by the power magic of the internet. And they're thanking us and giving us phone numbers, and we're giving them phone numbers, and they're like, "Man, if we have any problems, is it cool if we call you instead? Because these guys are incompetent, and whoever has your contract, let us know, and we'll make sure to re-up it next year." I'm like, "Oh yeah, no problem. That sounds good."
Yeah.
And and it was just really fun because we had done that exercise after this particular company has done many exercises, all including SE and things like that, and we're showing them video from 2 different people and audio and cameras that we set up in the facility and giving them logins to WAPs that we hid, and showing them what boxes we were able to physically compromise, logically compromise, putting kits inside of stuff that were power control systems so they'd never ever be looked inside. So we'd sit there, you use a jiggler, open the lock, dump the hardware into it, and pull it back out. So it was really fun to see kind of where they were allowing us to escalate how far we were allowed to go versus where they've done testing in the past where it was just fish people or ask people for a password or just try and tailgate somebody in. We actually had a neat exercise.
Yeah, that's a great story. Thanks for sharing that. Hey Sharon, what do you want to share one with us?
Sure, yeah. I think when you're doing physical social engineering, the first time you try to get into a particular organization is the most difficult, but the more you manage to get in, the more brazen and the bolder and the cheekier you get, and that's when it gets really fun. There was one particular organization that I went to. I found out that it had quite a lot of space, and space is at a premium in London, so they rented it out for events. So I called them up and said I was interested in running an event there. Could I go in and see them? And yeah, of course I could. So first time I compromised them was just doing that events tour. I find it's convenient when I'm social engineering to carry a second mobile phone. So I can drop it somewhere along the line as I'm in an organisation, which gives me a good excuse to go back in. So that's how I managed to get in. And then because they were running various events, they took on temporary caterers. So I found out a date when they were doing a catering tour, and I went in and joined that tour, learned how to cook fish and chips, what kind of temperature you need to keep the oven at, all that. Then I got in via tailgating, but the more I got in, the cheekier I was getting, and it came to the point where I was sitting in reception. I had my laptop, I noticed they had a few network points, so I just plugged in there's like 3 security guards and a few receptionists there, but I just plugged in. But the network points were dead. But when you went into reception, they had a computer sitting on the desk in the middle of the room. Her visitors had to register to get their ID passes. It was obviously connected to the network. So I just went over to the security man and I said, do you mind if I check my email? I just need to unplug the network cable here. And he said, no, not at all. And he brought me over a chair. So I'm sitting in reception. I'm not even past the perimeter, really. I'm sitting in reception with the security guard bringing me over a chair so I could hack their network.
That's great. Man, that's one of those in the reports where you really don't want to name the poor guy. 'Cause you know
Yeah.
It's all over for him. That's excellent. Excellent stories. Guys, really, I think this was a really awesome podcast, and I think we really outlined a lot of what's going to happen with SE in the future, where it's coming from. These stories that we just heard were excellent. I really, really appreciate all of you coming on. I promised that we would just go through your websites real quick, so I just want to kind of, before we end it all, just to again thank you, Sharon, for coming on. And if anybody wants to get more information on you or on your BrewCon training coming up, where can they go to find out more about you?
You can see our website. It's www.firstdefenseis.com.
Okay, and just for you Americans, including myself, defense is spelled with a C, so it's FIRSTDEFENCE.
Yeah, the right way.
Yeah, the right
Any other
way.
Is there any other way than that? I mean,
Yeah, with an S, the way that us heathens over here spell it. So, and Nickerson, if anyone wants to find out more about you and what's going on with you and the things you have coming up, where can they go to hook up on that?
Usually if it's professional stuff, lares.com, it's lares.com. That's where the business kind of exists. If it's things that will offend them or they want to see where I'm actively offending other people, at conferences, I would go to our podcast site, which is exoticliability.com. That should do it. Otherwise, I'm pretty easy to find everywhere.
Just type in Nickerson in Google, right?
Pretty close.
Pretty much. Carlos, if people want to find out a little more about what's going on with you, where can we go to find that out?
For everything I'm doing as in the Metasploit project, you can just go to Metasploit and just see the activity log of what I'm working on. My website, www.darkoperator.com, where you'll see me talking almost always about Metasploit scripting, post-exploitation, and some other events I may have. And from time to time, you'll hear me in the Paul.com podcast at www.paul.com.com. You can find us in iTunes also. Other than that, I would say Twitter. From time to time, I tend to log in and just tweet a bit as Carlos_Flores.
Excellent. Thank you. And Johnny, I know we mentioned your site before, but people want to find out more. Just tell us where we can go to find out more about you.
Yeah, all my stuff's pretty much wrapped up in one site. We're at hackersforcharity.org.
Excellent. So, guys, really, all four of you, thank you for your time. I know some of you are probably in a way different time zone. I know quite a few of you are. So your timing here has been really, really appreciated. So thank you for coming on and making this a great podcast.
thank you very much for me as well.
It was a pleasure. Thanks, guys.
No problem.
Yeah, thank you for doing what you're doing.
Not a problem. I'll send you a link out once we get this up, so you guys can see where it's at, and maybe we can do this again down the road, because I really think this was successful and a lot of good information here. So we'll check with you guys again later, and thanks for coming on.
All right, take
Thanks
care.
a lot.
Nice talking to you.
Nice talking to you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Take care.
Okay, well, Maddie, that was an awesome podcast, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. It was. I really enjoyed it. Great conversation.
Excellent. Everyone had to run. Jim had to run, but if you can believe it or not, as Jim was leaving, Dave popped on from the hospital where
No pun intended.
No pun intended. Dave, what's
Hey.
going on with your
Hey, did
your wife, man? You have a kid yet?
Not yet. I hear I didn't miss much though, right?
No,
Am I a little
not
late?
much at all. Yeah, a little late. Yeah.
Okay. no babies yet, but very soon.
Oh man,
My
Dave,
lord.
We were
And if
making
my
a joke.
wife gets a hold of this podcast and she knows that I'm on here right now, I literally will need to come over to your place and sleep over.
Oh, you kidding? I mean, like she's on the email list. I already emailed her, told her to
Oh,
get the link.
dude, seriously, come on, don't even play jokes like that.
I'm not joking, man. I talk to your wife all the time. No, we were joking because it's like you're the only podcast member that has called from hospitals getting EKGs. Called from the traffic jams. You called from like everywhere. Like you're on a plane. And so we're like, this guy. He pings me and says he's in a hospital. His wife's about to give birth. Do we believe him? And we're like, yeah, it's Relic. Yeah, he would probably call. Like if we hear any babies crying in the background, we're going to be really concerned.
Yeah, well, I'm not joking. That's funny. Well, I heard it was a really good podcast. Apologies for missing it, but obviously, well. So not to disappoint the fans, but my wife is more important than the podcast at times. At times.
Okay, so listen, here's the deal. We took a vote. There's 4 of us here on the podcast all the time. 3 of us took a vote, and we're done with your lame excuses. Next time you miss a podcast for EKGs, pregnancies, or something like that, you're off. Okay, done.
Man, you guys are like slave drivers.
Yeah, done. No more of this. Hey, listen, you can control getting your wife pregnant, so no more of this, having baby stuff, okay? Well, I'm glad you're here now, Dave. Glad
Thanks, buddy.
You're with us, and I hope everything works out with your new one. And we look forward to, hearing what happens over the weekend.
Thanks. You guys didn't raffle off the free date with Mudson this podcast, did you?
No,
Not this time.
Next
Okay, good.
time.
But you
All right.
missed an awesome opportunity to tell everyone exactly what Pink Pirate means, which I'm very, very thankful for that you were not
Oh
present.
man,
Yeah.
But you are here now.
that's true.
Too late.
That's true. No, this is getting put in the podcast.
Oh
No,
yeah,
no,
this
the-
is
Hey, you
being
just reminded me,
recorded.
Mud. This
The
is
magic of the moment has disappeared already. There's no point.
We can
Chris,
create-
has the moment disappeared?
I don't know, because when I think of Mutz and that Pink Pirate thing, I don't know. It's just it's a weird thing.
Sorry, guys, the magic has disappeared.
But it really, I will give you this, Relic. It really was funny because he started telling everyone the story. Everybody, I mean, the whole panel, all the guests, the story about him and his Pink Pirate outfit, and everybody started laughing. And then he says, "Boy, thank God Relic's not here to share pictures and stories and stuff." And and then just as he says that, Elwood's like, "Hey, Relic wants to come in. Should we let him in?" And Maddie's like, "No."
Well, that would have been good.
Yeah. So.
Oh well, what are you gonna do? We'll have to say that for the next podcast. We'll dub the next podcast the Pink Pirate.
Maybe we can find a Pink Pirate interview. No,
Yeah, sounds good.
Pink Pirate interview.
A social engineering Pink Pirate. I wonder if
Oh,
one
man.
exists.
I don't know if we find that. I'm not sure if I want to interview him. But great podcast today. If you want to check out Social Engineer for more information, you can do it on the web at www.social-engineer.org. You can follow us on Twitter at Human Hacker, or you can check us out on the IRC channel Social-Engineer on the Freenode.net network. Feel free to check out the outro music if you like what you hear there. It's Michael Anthony on ccmixer.org. Thanks again for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you guys out at Vegas and, next month on the podcast.
So many problems you face. Oh, walk that away. Stay on track. Walk on, watch your back. Walk on, stay on track. Walk on, watch your back. Oh, walk on, ooh, walk on, walk on, walk on. Playing around thinking about the times you see. Talking about every single day. 2 steps forward and no 1 step back. Walk on. trying to remain on track. Yeah. Stay on track. Watch your back. 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 Walk on. Walk on. Walk on. Walk on. You walk up to the line. Time after time. Thinking things will stay the same. Now the game isn't played that way. You've got to stay on track. Walk on, watch your back. Walk on, stay on track. Walk on, watch your back. Walk on, looking around you and thinking it's okay. Forgetting about the things that you did yesterday. But if you only knew that the game isn't played that way. Stay on track, walk on, watch your back, walk on. Stay on track, walk on, watch your back, walk on. Stay on track, walk on, watch your back, walk on. Stay on track, walk on. Watch your back, walk on. Stay on track, walk on. Watch your back, walk on. Stay on track, walk on. Watch your back, walk on. Stay on track, walk on. Watch your back, walk on. Stay on track, walk on. Watch your back, walk on.